Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for a back and bicep day. And as you guys can see, this vlog is going to be crazy long. I cut it down from the 35 minutes of footage to get it down to this of just the work sets, very minimal amounts of moving that are not lifting. I'm just doing that much volume at this point. So we started off with weighted pull-ups, right? Did weighted pull-ups, did 3 sets of 10 with 25 pounds, okay? 3 sets of 10 with 25 pounds. So pull-ups are always going to be my staple. They're my favorite overall back exercise. I like to start my workouts with them. The main thing is nice wide grip pull-ups if you want really wide lats. And I know people love to argue with me about back training, yet I have a really jacked back. My back has gotten more jacked. And again, basic biomechanics, where you'll find a lot of coaches and other people will chime in and say, he's actually right, you guys are just not listening. So with the pull-ups, a nice wide grip, get a stretch at the bottom. In fact, do most of your reps from a hang will give you the most lat activation. When you come up, depending upon your personal ranges of motion, you need to worry about getting your scapula pulled together at the top, and however high you happen to come is where you come. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with trying to swing over the bar. It's just not going to build your lats any further. You're not using any lats for that. And a lot of people, if you have a wide grip, you're not going to be able to do that anyways. Okay, it's just the mechanics of it are going to require you to disengage the lats in order to do that. So just want to be clear on there. If I thought it worked better, I would do that, and I would just go lighter and throw myself up over the bar. Okay, but it's not going to build a bigger back. It's just not. All right, rows. So I did 4 types of lat exercises today. We're taking even the back volume up. Normally my back, oftentimes I stop it at 5 or 6 sets for the week. But since we are bodybuilding and I need everything to grow, even though my arms are a higher priority, things like arms, side delts, rear delts, all that stuff, I really want to bring it up. I'm still going to take everything up to pretty high volumes with hard sets. And you guys will see the lighting difference in this. Some of this I did with the door open. A lot of this vlog is done with it closed. The lighting difference is just kind of comical to me. Very similar to the idea of what happens with gym lighting. And it goes to show that lighting can show how lean you are. It can show your cuts. So this is one of those things where I did make a thing and someone chimed in and said, okay, Jason, but you're lean enough, because if someone is fat, they're not going to look lean in the lighting. It's like true, but I think a lot of times those of us, as we've dieted down reasonably lean, we don't see it because of the lighting around us. That lighting matters a lot. There's a reason they use fake tan and oil and good lighting on the bodybuilding stage. Same thing with photo shoots. Okay, it shows what's actually there, right, where you can see it. In this case, though, I went ahead and did normal bent over rows. I did 3 types of rows. The other 2 are chest supported. A lot of this I've kind of toyed with. Do I want to have no extra axial loading? It's like, I think I can definitely handle some on some of my training. At this point, as long as fatigue is being covered, I'm getting sufficient sleep. My protein's crazy high. I'm getting the right foods because my diet is all whole foods. I think I'll be okay even doing a bit of extra stuff with axial loading. It's just a lot of my stuff is not. My squats, deadlifts are going to be, I'm going to do rows and stuff still. But the other stuff is all chest supported. So really it's only one of my 4 back exercises. And that's pretty reasonable. So, people get into extreme when they discuss these things, right? They get too extreme with the axial loading argument. Oh, we need to have none. No, you want some. Some is good. You just can't do excessive amounts of it. You can't handle it. It will affect your systemic recovery. But, if you have 3, 4, maybe 5 exercises a week with some decent axial loading, and you don't get the volume too high on them, I think that's perfectly reasonable. So in my case, it's going to be squats. Let's do some rows. I may do some calf raises. I'll debate on shoulder day if I want to work with seated or standing. All right, it's worth debating. But I could make the case for some of this of could it give better overall athleticism, neural drive to do the standing? Possibly. And we need to think about those things. But I will also agree that the majority of our volume shouldn't put much stress there. If you're going to do high volumes of training for hypertrophy, obviously you want to really limit those exercises, and then everything else needs to be as easy as possible to recover from. All right, so I did seal rows next, which is chest supported, and that is still different. It works the back different than those other rows. I feel it in a different area. Okay, the same thing with the dumbbell rows here. So again, focusing on that stretch. Notice that just like the seal rows, people want to argue about the line of pull on a row, but then when you do a seal row, it forces you into that, and everyone talks about how good seal rows feel. That should tell you everything. And for me, one reason I've been able to develop a great back, I've always had a really good mind-muscle connection with my back. I know how to do exercises in a way to where I feel it, where I really feel it. And I feel all of these exercises completely different. Just like I feel chin-ups and pull-ups completely different in my back. Okay? And so I've learned what movements are going to really make me feel those muscles. And for me, it's always been rowing weights up to my armpit or my chest, not to the hip. Absolutely. Always feel more lat. Always feel more middle trap, all that stuff when I do it that way. And I think it shows when you guys see my back and see the thickness and the width of it and everything. I think it's very obvious that it works. It's very obvious that it works. I'm trying to get to that same level with my arms, right? So there we go, difference in the lighting. Those are 1 minute apart. The only difference is opening or closing the garage door. So I have that down lighting, normal down lighting in my garage, and this is the sunlight hitting. But I mean, looking here also, we can even see my serratus and stuff starting to come out there. We see the hamstrings. I'm getting decently lean at this point. All right, I'm getting decently lean. We have more to go. I want to keep working on it. That's why we're going to keep doing the fasted training, the fasted cardio every day. All of this is fasted, and I did 30 minutes with my weight vest and vlogged it for you guys between the two platforms afterwards, and then I ate breakfast. I've already had 150 grams of protein by the time I'm recording this, right in that ballpark. 75 of it from a shake, the rest from my chicken and my omega-3 eggs. All right, curls. Versus last week, which I didn't come up as high because I'm getting used to the really high volumes of this. I'm trying to work the bicep as thoroughly as possible. So I did only 5 sets of this, pretty much did them to failure as a strict curl. So in this case, what I did, I lock all the way out at the bottom, lock out, notice I lock the elbow, and then we come up to the face. All right, I'm working the bicep with this big basic exercise. The goal is to work the bicep as thoroughly as possible through its fullest range of motion. So one of the tricks, notice I cock the wrist back and I lean forward just a tiny hair so that we can lock at the bottom. Okay, that lock at the bottom, again, biomechanically, this is what we need. And this will lit my biceps up. My biceps were on fire from just these 5 sets. Okay, they were on fire. So we're getting back to what I was doing with the back stuff. Get the movements that we know are going to work the muscle, and then we feel it. I really feel these a lot. And particularly I notice when I come up to the face like that and I get that extra activation for the short head. Again, someone's going to argue with me on that. God, I'm just going to leave it in, But again, working the bicep through the fullest range of motion possible. Notice full lockout at the bottom. And when we come up to the face, I have the wrist cocked back just a little bit. Why? So that we maintain tension on the bicep as we get higher up so it doesn't unload it. Because notice the line of pull, it will keep you loaded and it will reduce the stress on the forearms. Okay? Kind of a big deal, isn't it? Right? Kind of a big deal. We want to keep that forearm stress low. Again, the lighting here, though, on the curls, it kind of shows, once I have the good lighting, it kind of shows this is where I'm at. I'm still going to keep getting leaner. The waistline needs to continue to tighten up. We know this. The loose skin, though, is improved as I've lost body fat over time. We're going to keep plugging away at it, chipping away bit by bit by bit, but I'm going to make gains while I do it, guys. That's the whole point of everyone's always, they want to cut fast and they cry when they lose muscle and they lose strength. Well, quit cutting so fast. Quit being so impatient and focus on doing it right. If you cut slow, all the research shows that you should be able to gain muscle. If your diet is dialed in, your training is dialed in, you can gain muscle on a cut. but everyone wants to do everything fast. Same people who, they bulk too hard, they get too fat. And this is stuff I've had to recant and admit I was wrong based on the evidence, both real world and the lab. You don't have to gain any body fat to get close to maximum or even possible maximum muscle. And we can absolutely recomp and make some gains as advanced lifters. So it's all nonsense. Everyone bulks too fast, they get sloppy, they get fat. Okay? And the fact that they made gains is not proof, because they would have made gains had they done it slower. But again, the idea here, cut slow enough that you can make gains. Bulk fast enough that you don't gain significant body fat. Like, this is not complicated, people, but it requires patience. It requires patience. And that's hard for a lot of people. All right, so after that, I did 5 sets of the barbell curls, then we went to preacher curls. I picked the weight. I started with 40 pounds. Normally, I went to this after a couple sets last time because I got to where I couldn't complete the reps, and I got 15 reps on the first 3, right? Pretty much to failure, right at failure. And then I really started hitting definite true failure. For the majority of the sets, I got to the bottom and just couldn't move it. But I lost count, and when I checked the footage, I was wanting to get around 10. I kept going. I got to 5. I'm like, I bet I can get to 10. I ended up doing 11 sets. The last set, I only got 12 reps. I got 13 on the set before. So we ended up doing like sets of 15, then it dropped to 14 to failure, then 13, and then I got 12 reps on the last set. And these are failure sets. So again, this idea, everyone's like, oh, I lose reps. Really? Why are you guys losing reps? You're out of shape. Get your conditioning up. Do some cardio. Because I get this even with some of my clients. They do 3 sets, right? They get anywhere near failure, and they cannot replicate. They can't replicate their stuff, and it's like, guys, we've got to get your conditioning up. We have to get your work capacity up. Because, I mean, this shows very clearly, I mean, my biceps were already fatigued. They were lit up by the time I got to these. We only went from 15 to 13 reps in 10 sets. Keeping in mind, a whole lot of these, you see me literally at failure. I get to the bottom and it will not move. I tried to pause briefly on most of the reps as I went. Notice a lot of these are paused, some of them the whole set. The idea, I'm trying to get that stretch in the bicep now. So just like I wanted that full range of motion on the barbell curl, I'm trying to do that now with these preacher curls. Okay, I'm trying to take them through the longest range of motion that I can while keeping the muscle under tension. And that's the idea. And then the band curls, I'll worry about peak contraction, right? Because that's what they're best at. But a lot of this is about focusing on the bottom. The preacher curl puts you into that lengthened position. So I want to not miss any of it. And if that means I've got to drop all the way down to 40 pounds, right? Because you guys have seen me do like 70 pounds on these for 8 or whatever. You know, we drop all the way to 40 and lock it. Try to lock the elbow the best that I can and stretch that, because it's something I need to work on, right, guys? I have some definite range of motion issues with my elbows. So I'm trying to do stuff like this to where I force it, right? Let's force that range of motion, just like I've been messing with Lou raises off camera for the shoulders, right? I want to continue to improve those ranges of motion and things that have shortened up, with age. I want to stretch them back out. But again, we look at that from a hypertrophy potential. If I can get into those deeper stretch positions for rep after rep after rep, even if I got to do some more pause reps, okay? What's it going to be worth in terms of arm growth? Especially for me, my biceps got neglected. They're my worst muscle group, right? So I've decided I'm going to make them my best. So what does that mean? Think about mind-muscle connection, doing really hard sets, limit sets, most of the sets to failure, trying to take this muscle through the fullest range of motion and work every angle. So we get the nice big barbell curl, which works all the functions, and I've hammered tons of volume on the preacher curls, but getting that stretch position is really the name of the game, and it's really hard for me to get there, but I feel like today more successful in doing that. So again, we asked the question of if I can force it to do that, especially with these high volumes, especially with all the failure sets to where we know we've reached all the muscle fibers and we're getting them into those lengthened positions, getting the full range of motion, right? Will this stimulate growth in that worst muscle? I think that it will. And all of this burn. The main thing is I picked the exercises that are giving me the best mind-muscle connection. So a lot of people are like, don't you like the other curls? I thought you love incline curls. I do. But I feel a lot of shoulder in those too. And I question the lengthened position benefit because of the unloading, potential little active insufficiency. I'm getting a lot of what I want with the big curl already. So I really want my major isolation. I want it to really, really hammer that stretch, right? I want it to hammer that stretch. But the thing with the preacher curl, it works great for this, for high volumes, because this is an exercise that's amazing. People get hurt on it. Why do they get hurt on it? Because they cheat, they skip the bottom, they don't take it, and it puts you into that lengthened position. They can injure you. This is forcing me to go light on it, but it's forcing me to maximize that point of tension in this exercise. So notice I have my feet forward and I'm leaned forward. It's preventing me from being able to lay back and cheat. It's forcing me to have to work from that stretch. On every single rep, I'm having to stretch deep and then pull back out of it. All right, again, the idea, push the biceps to the limit. And this was a crazy amount of bicep volume. But I feel like I'm adapting to it. I feel like, again, I'm feeling the muscle tremendously. The pump and the burn has been crazy intense, and I'm trying to just take it up. But I feel like stuff like today, phenomenal workout. This is another reason I train each thing once a week. They need a week to recover, really. And again, only doing stuff like this on the worst muscle groups that got most neglected. It's not even about genetic weak points, because I try to tell people don't worry about that. Just maximize everything. But these muscles did lag, and we'll find out how well the really high volume works. Okay. You see the two schools of thought, but I've even seen the guys like Lyle point out, well, once gear comes into the equation, obviously volume is a bigger deal, right? It works better. So, I am a very modestly enhanced lifter. We all know that. I've been very open about that. So we have to then ask that question of, can I utilize that to my advantage, especially when I'm protein overfeeding in that environment? So if all these hypotheses are correct, my arm should see substantial growth, even if the hypothesis is correct for the natural guys. Because I notice that my novices can't handle the high volumes. They can't. But what about advanced guys like me who have perfect lifestyle protein intake? Even though I'm older, I'm about to turn 48. Less than 3 weeks, actually. Can we maximize that and still benefit? And so if their ideas are true, then we should see substantial arm growth happen in a relatively short period of time, especially given the previous undertraining and underdevelopment. If we do these things, because again, all that lengthened position work, ultra high volume, hard, intense sets, and then the other environmental factors being perfect, okay? So my arms should be growing in a relatively short period of time. In a couple months, they should be noticeably bigger if all these people are correct, right? So even if people like Broderick Chavez are correct with some of his gear advice. So all this stuff is being combined together, these different people, and if they're right in their different points, we should see substantial bicep growth by the end of the year, okay, or early into next year. Even though I'm going to be losing more body fat. All right, so we did all that, and then we hammered down the band curls. My tempo changed as I got further and further and further into doing these, by the way. I did the first few with the door closed, and then we went with it open, so you guys see me in the sunlight. So we see how the different lighting affects me. I look way more ripped in the dark. Well, it's not dark, it's just the overhead light, down lighting, right? I look thicker, but less lean with the sunlight. That's one of the things I notice. And I think it's almost funny. It's like you look lean, really lean, you look cut up versus just thick, depending upon the lighting. Like lighting does so much. It's really an interesting thing. Such an interesting thing. But these are pretty much most of these sets to failure. Some of them might not be, most of them are. I just tried to chase that pump and that burn until I couldn't stand it on every set. And then some of them you could tell I hit failure, a lot of them. But the reps stayed fairly consistent. They're anywhere from about 25 up to about 35. And it just depended on, did I rest 20 seconds? Did I rest a minute? You know, it was all stuff like that. So all these curls, these 15 sets of band curls were probably done in 20 minutes or less. But yes, it's a lot. And there we see, as soon as the light's off, I look completely different. Still look good, but I notice I look thicker but less lean. It's just all about lighting. But yeah, so I tried to do them hard. Like you see me squeezing at the top on a lot of them. So that's the other thing too. Band curls, we get that overspeed eccentric, so it'll help the tendons. But because of this, it's going to be a heavier focus on the shortened position. Why? Because of the gravity pull and the fact that the bands are progressive overloading. So this is now working the other end of the extreme. Okay, I did a ton of volume with the preacher curls that put us into that forced stretch. This puts an intense contraction with an overspeed. All jerks us back down out of the contraction. So this is an extremely aggressive shortened position movement. We also get all that blood flow. We also get all that tendon benefit. And I want to keep those bicep tendons strong. I want to keep them thick because if they've been a weak link, I want to keep them strong for the preacher curls. I want to keep them strong for my deadlifts. Okay, because I'm going to continue to mixed grip deadlift every week. So again, just building those tendons. But I think also that stretch position stuff and locking will also have carryover there in the sense of it'll condition me to lock those elbows all the way from the curls. And that's really what we need to keep our biceps safe when we mixed grip deadlift. Is always, because you'll never tear a bicep if you're fully locked, by the way. It just doesn't happen. So again, double downing with a lot of that, the injury prevention and along with, hey, I need to really blow my arms up. But I am, as you guys can tell, I'm super serious about the arm thing. The biceps, I want my biceps. I want no arms Blaha to my biceps being my best muscle group. I mean, I've watched like the Irving guy, gave me a lot of ideas of what he's had to do with it, of being able to really only train his arms. And yet he's done enormous volumes and pushed biceps hard and has amazing arms. Like, I'd love to have his arms, you know, that's where I would like to be. And I feel like I can possibly get to that point if I push just to this limit. But again, it's going to be a once a week. But keeping in mind, they still get secondary stress on the other stuff, and then my upright rows and all that on my shoulder day, which will come up, will re-stimulate this. But again, the volumes here are crazy. I need the week pretty much probably to recover from it, and that's okay. But yeah, so then we came in and did 15 sets of band curls like this and just chased that pump. As I got to the last couple of sets, I was losing the pump, by the way. And that's something I've seen some of some really serious bodybuilders talk about, if you know you've reached your limit when the pump goes away. But I didn't get that. The preacher curls, until set 11, it took me 11 sets to lose 3 reps, from 15 down to 12. 11 sets, and I only lost 2 reps over the first 10. Okay, same with these band curls. I started the last couple sets, I felt I wasn't getting a pump anymore. The pump was going away. So that means we've probably pushed them to their limit. Probably the glycogen stores might be going down a little bit. So protein, I've already hit 75 grams of whey along with my other food to get that response, that insulin response. Some of that will turn into carbs to gluconeogenesis, and biceps are a very small muscle, so we don't need a lot to replenish that. It'll happen real fast. But again, the bicep workout today was intense. The back workout was actually intense. That was one of the more intense back workouts I've ever had, at least in years, couple years. So super happy with it today. We'll deadlift and do posterior chain tomorrow, and we'll see how that goes after a back day. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys and gals next time.